Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The Nigerian nightmare Efe Ajagba will return to action this weekend to face Amir Mansour in Carson, California on the Porter Ugas undercard, and this will be one of the feature fights of the night. So Efe Ajagba, 24 years old, turned pro about 18 months ago, has amassed a record of 8-0 with 7 knockouts, and it probably would have been 8 knockouts had it not been for Curtis Harper infamously walking out of the ring, a dispute over the money that he was going to get paid for that fight. Didn't want to fight, his pay got cut at the last minute and he opted out, so Ajagba got a disqualification win. So this fight against Amir Mansour, it does represent a step up, and I'm looking forward to seeing this fight because of that reason, but also we get to have a look at Ajagba, his performance here, and make a bit of a comparison, a bit of an eye test between this performance and the performance that Filip Hrgović put on against Amir Mansour back in late 2018. So Filip Hrgović stopped Amir Mansour in Croatia in 3 rounds. It was a very impressive performance, albeit, many people acknowledged at that point, Amir Mansour getting long in the tooth, had he lost a step, and apparently he had. He kind of, folded relatively easy in the end. He gave it a go for a few rounds, but it looked like he wanted out by the 3rd round. And it was also a case he stepped into that fight at late notice. Whereas for this fight, it appears that Mansour has had a relatively decent length camp. So we will have to see what sort of resistance he can put up. So I want to talk about these couple of issues. We'll start off first with the level of opposition. Efe Ajagba, 8-0. Really, he has been fighting nobodies. Only one person, Rodney Hernandez, has gotten past the 1st round. He was taken 5 rounds before he was stopped on his feet. One of the few guys that hasn't been brutally knocked out by Efe Ajagba, the other being Curtis Harper. But obviously Ajagba didn't even get to throw a punch in that fight. Quite an infamous sort of incident in boxing in 2018. So while Amir Mansour, he might be a bit faded, a bit rinsed, and is devolving now into, what many would see as journeyman level, gatekeeper status, he is a cut above what Ajagba has been facing. And Amir Mansour, over the course of his career, he's got wins over Fred Cassie, knockout win, Joey DeWecco, a draw with Gerald Washington. He had a real war with Dominic Breazeale in which he had to retire. He had a win over Travis Kaufman. So he's had some decent level opposition through his career, and for the most part has accounted himself well. But Father Time is undefeated, and clearly it's been catching up with Amir Mansour. Even though, visibly, to look at Amir Mansour, and here's a shot from Instagram, you wouldn't know it. Amir Mansour is always coming in shape, and if you follow him on Facebook, or Instagram more lately, he does these runs with the champ, and Amir Mansour is always in tip-top condition. And to look at him there, you would go, actually, he looks like a guy who's more like 30 or 35, not 46, not a guy that is sort of closing in towards 50. But, he has clearly, from his recent performances, he's lost a step. And he is sort of ripe for the taking. He's become an opponent now. And Filip Hrgović showed that Amir Mansour can be beaten, and beaten handily. So, with that in mind, you've got this sort of step up on paper for Ajagba. How many rounds is this going to go? I would say probably under 3 rounds. I think it will be a very sort of similar performance to the Filip Hrgović one. I think Amir Mansour has enough sort of crafty veteran sort of moves about him and can, sort of navigate the first round or two, potentially staying away from Ajagba's, power punches, the devastating right hand. Also the left hand, which really hasn't been called into action yet in his pro career because he's been getting these 1st round knockouts with his straight punches. It'd be good to see what Ajagba can do with some punch variation in this fight. Very good straight puncher, and that's been wrecking some of his opposition, Nick Jones and a few others. So what will Amir Mansour be able to do in here to actually take, Efe Ajagba some rounds? Because really that is what Ajagba needs now. He's starting to enter that 2nd phase of his prospect career where he's going to gradually be stepping through the ranks. So the next year, 18 months, the level of opposition is going to be steadily increasing. And Amir Mansour sort of represents that first step of that process. And clearly they've taken this fight on thinking, well, Mansour, he's got some name recognition, he's been around the division quite a while, got some, semi-notable wins on his record, but he is on the slide now and he is ripe for the picking. And Efe Ajagba, I fully expect him to knock out Amir Mansour. I'm not even going to say that I think Amir Mansour has a chance in this fight, because I don't really think he does. I think he will come out swinging and trying to, land something early on. But as soon as he starts to get a bit tagged up, I think he will become a bit more gun-shy, as he did in the Filip Hrgović fight. And from that point on, it will be all downhill. And he may sort of take a knee, or, if he's dropped, he may opt to sort of stay down. And that's what happened in the Hrgović fight. That third round, it looked like he could have beaten the count, but it looked like he didn't really want to know. But perhaps he will show a little bit more gumption in this fight, because he has had a bit more time to prepare. He said after that Hrgović fight that, he was forced into a situation because he hasn't been able to get some fights, that he needed to take the fight because he needed the money he had to support his family. So we will see what Amir Mansour brings to this, but I'm not expecting much. And Efe Ajagba, he's, similarly to Amir Mansour, always in terrific shape. It's like he's, chiseled out of marble. And he's been training the house down in Houston. He's been training with Ronnie Shields, honing different elements to his game. It'll be interesting to see if we do see anything, that has been added to his arsenal. Or will this end early? Will this be a first-round knockout? I mean, in itself, that wouldn't surprise me. And in the lead-up to this fight, Efe Ajagba has been sparring regularly with Lenroy Thomas. And if I sort of compare Thomas to Mansour, roughly about the same height, maybe Mansour's a little bit shorter, similar sort of build. Yeah, I think maybe that's more with the Thomas situation, that he trains in the same area. They're in Houston. Maybe some of the sparring isn't as bountiful as other areas like New York or California. But Lenroy Thomas, he's a hard worker. I'm sure he's been giving Efe Ajagba some good work, and Ronnie Shields has been sharpening Efe Ajagba and some of the tools. Because that's what Shields has sort of said publicly in the past, that Efe Ajagba is a work in progress, that they have to bring him along slowly, that they have to, do the right fights at the right time, that they don't need to rush him. He's 24 years old. Ajagba, he came to the sport sort of later in his teens, but he sort of made up for it quite quickly. He went to the Commonwealth Games back in 2014, got bronze, and then he was at the Olympics in Rio in 2016. He was knocked out in the round of 16 against Ivan Daichko, who went on to claim a bronze, and Daichko also got bronze at the London Olympics. So Efe Ajagba, he's got some pedigree about him, but he's still a bit raw here. And really, we haven't seen him tested to any degree, especially in the defensive department. I mean, I don't know what he looks like going backwards. Is he going to be able to sort of handle being pushed back, or being in a situation where he gets clipped, he has to regroup, and, he has to really sort of survive. And, his chin really hasn't been checked yet. But I am looking forward to seeing this fight with Mansour, because for the first round or two, there is the potential for Mansour, because the tricky southpaw, he throws some decent punches, he's got power, he might be able to come in, because this is what he was looking to do against a similarly tall Filip Hrgović. He was really trying to stride in, cut the distance, and throw some haymakers. He had limited success against Hrgović, but I expect he will do something similar against Efe Ajagba, who will have, a massive height advantage, but also a even bigger reach advantage. Efe Ajagba has an 88-inch reach, which is completely ridiculous. So his reach advantage over Mansour is going to be like a foot, which is, even in the heavyweight division, that's completely crazy. That, a reach advantage of 88 inches for a start, but the advantage over the opponent is about a foot. So Mansour is going to have some issues closing the distance, as he did against Filip Hrgović, but will he be able to do anything, use some veteran moves to close the gap, do something, and just maybe actually put Ajagba in a situation that he's not familiar with, and that he has to sort of adjust and, get through some adversity before he gets a win? Because Ajagba, for me, he's going to win this, and by knockout. It's just a matter of how long. But I want to see Mansour actually put him under a bit of pressure, because I want to see him, learning and developing, because he hasn't been getting the rounds in the ring. They haven't been able to find him many opponents that can actually go some rounds. Rodney Hernandez being the only guy so far. And with Mansour being 46 and fading fast, I'm not sure he will put up much resistance either. But what do you make of it all? What are you expecting from this fight? Is Efe Ajagba just going to completely walk through Amir Mansour, or will Mansour surprise and, throw up a few tricks but ultimately still lose the fight? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.